Olden Japan was a peaceful place until these strange, dragonfly-like bugs started appearing. Nobody knew it yet, but a terrifying supernatural plague was about to strike the unsuspecting village. In the village, everyone was using the word bug in their daily lives. Little did they know, these casual phrases were about to become a literal and very deadly nightmare. A woman felt a deep sense of unease, like something terrible was lurking just out of sight. That gut feeling was about to be proven right in the worst way. Chaos erupted in the middle of the street when a man suddenly collapsed. He began puking up a terrifying amount of dark blood, sending shockwaves of fear through the crowd. The situation got even grosser as centipede-like bugs started crawling right out of the man's back. This wasn't a normal illness. It was something horrifyingly supernatural and definitely not human. It turns out these bugs are incarnations of demons. They invade human bodies to suck out their life force, feeding their demonic masters until the poor host eventually withers and dies. The gods couldn't just sit by and watch humanity suffer like this. They decided to send a champion down to the human world to strike down these disgusting and demonic pests. A giant peach came floating down the river, catching an old woman completely off guard. She had no idea she was about to stumble upon the beginning of a legendary tale. This wasn't your average snack. The peach hit the shore with a heavy splash, signaling the arrival of a divine hero who would soon change the fate of all Japan. This man is Momotaro, the legendary warrior sent by the gods. With his sharp gaze and blonde ponytail, he's finally here and ready to take on the entire demon horde. Our boy didn't come alone. Momotaro and his 3 loyal retainers arrived at a village, immediately noticing the thick, unsettling swarm of bugs hovering over everything like a dark cloud. Yukijuro, the young archer, complained about having to see these gross things. Kinsuke, the scarred warrior with the eye patch, told the kid to just shut up and keep moving. Sarahiko, the stoic ninja with the black ponytail, confirmed that the demon's presence was strong. Meanwhile, the other 2 retainers were already back to their usual bickering in the background. This guy is clearly the brains of the operation. Sarahiko noted that the sheer number of bugs at the mountain's base was definitely a bad sign for the people living nearby. Momotaro shared his concerns, worried that the village higher up in the mountains was already a lost cause. They had to act immediately if they wanted to save anyone left. The blonde hero quickly started giving orders, sending Sarahiko and Yukijuro ahead to scout. They needed to verify if the demon was truly hiding somewhere in that mountain village. Momotaro emphasized that healing the sick was their top priority. He urged Sarahiko to use his spiritual arts to save as many of the dying villagers as he possibly could. The leader stayed firm, reminding everyone that their duty was to protect humanity. He didn't care about drawing attention to himself. He just wanted to save every single innocent life. Sarahiko gave a small smile and promised to do his best. It's clear he respects Momotaro deeply, even if he usually prefers to keep a cool and detached exterior. Kinsuke scolded Sarahiko for being too casual with their master, but he didn't wait around. Sarahiko dashed off instantly, leaving the others behind in a cloud of dust. This dude is insanely fast. Sarahiko scaled a massive tree in seconds, showing off the kind of agility that even leaves the legendary Momotaro impressed by his skill. The team arrived at a local house where an old woman was panicking. She begged them for help, explaining that her husband had just suddenly collapsed without any warning. Inside, the sight was absolutely stomach-turning. Dozens of centipede-like bugs were writhing all over the poor man, feasting on what little was left of his life force and true ki. Kinsuke and Momotaro were totally stunned. They'd seen some nasty stuff before, but never a human host crawling with this many gross, demonic bugs. It was enough to make anyone's skin crawl. Momotaro didn't waste any time and jumped right in. He placed his hand on the guy to start a purification ritual, praying his power could drive those creepy pests out for good. The purification ritual was cut short as Momotaro was suddenly swarmed by demonic bugs. Kinsuke screamed in terror, watching his leader struggle against the overwhelming and disgusting pests. Gritting his teeth, Momotaro swung his blade with everything he had. He unleashed a powerful strike, shouting for the bugs to be exorcised as he cut through the swarming horde. Inside a quiet room, Sarahiko admitted he never expected to draw his blade against mere insects. He watched as the bugs drained the patient's life force to empower their master. The duo looked out over a grim scene of countless human corpses. Sarahiko realized that if a single demon had consumed this many people, it would be an incredibly formidable opponent. Sarahiko stood before a small group of survivors, the only ones left in the entire village. The air was heavy with the sounds of their painful groans as they barely clung to life. Our boy Sarahiko didn't hesitate, quickly forming hand signs to suppress the plague. He knew he couldn't cure them instantly, but he could at least halt the bugs' movements for now. A bright light filled the room as Sarahiko completed his spiritual technique. He watched intently as the patients glowed, their bodies finally finding a momentary reprieve from the relentless demonic parasites. Looking down at the resting men, Sarahiko promised to treat them as best he could. He knew their time was short, so he focused entirely on stabilizing their remaining true ki. The room was silent as Sarahiko continued his work, placing his hands over a patient's body. He poured his energy into the ritual, desperately trying to push back the encroaching darkness. Frustration mounted as more bugs appeared the moment Sarahiko erased them. He stared at his hands in disbelief, watching the disgusting creatures writhe and multiply faster than he could act. Sarahiko realized he needed a massive burst of power like Momotaro's to win. Suddenly, a cold chill ran down his spine as a mysterious figure in wooden sandals stepped into the room. A terrifying woman with black horns and a feathered collar stood in the doorway. Sarahiko froze, realizing he was face to face with the sadistic plague demon behind the entire infestation. The demon grinned, her sharp fangs glinting as she asked if Sarahiko was the one responsible. He shuddered under her gaze, feeling an overwhelming pressure that made his heart race with fear. Without warning, the patient's bodies erupted in a horrific explosion of blood and bugs. Sarahiko watched in total horror as the lives he tried to save were extinguished in a single instant. Sweat poured down Sarahiko's face as the true gravity of the situation hit him. He gasped out in realization, his eyes wide with terror as he looked at the monster before him. Sarahiko desperately lashed out with his spiritual arts, causing the air to crack with energy. The demon was actually impressed, delighting in the discovery that her opponent was a Kijutsu user. The plague demon revealed she hadn't tasted such refined life force in decades. She decided that using bugs on Sarahiko would be a waste, prompting him to bolt out of the house. The demon lunged after him, declaring she would eat him directly. Just then, Yukijiro appeared with his bow drawn, ready to defend his friend against the approaching and terrifyingly powerful monster. Yukijiro fired a massive explosive arrow that rocked the entire area. He shouted for Sarahiko to use the distraction to get away, but the young archer was in way over his head. Sarahiko screamed at Yukijiro to run, his voice filled with desperate concern for his friend. He knew the demon was far beyond anything the young archer could hope to handle alone. It was too late. A sudden impact sent Yukijiro crashing to the ground, and a swarm of demonic bugs immediately engulfed him, leaving the young warrior completely helpless and screaming in pain. Rushing to his friend's side, Sarahiko found Yukijiro pale and barely conscious. The demon mocked them, wondering why Yukijiro didn't know any spiritual arts to defend himself from her relentless bugs. The demon's mood shifted as she toyed with a string of beads, admitting she'd lost her cool. Sarahiko glared at her, his mind racing for any way to save his dying companion. This psycho wasn't finished, announcing she'd keep Sarahiko alive just to farm him. She wanted her bugs to slowly drain his life force for as long as possible. The demon grinned, suggesting they cut off his limbs since her bugs only needed a torso. To her, his arms and legs were just extra baggage she didn't need. Sarahiko desperately tried to use his spiritual arts to defend his fallen friend. The plague demon just mocked their bond, finding it amusing that he refused to leave Yukijuro behind to save himself. The demon realized her bugs couldn't get close to Sarahiko on their own. Meanwhile, poor Yukijuro was barely clinging to life on the ground, his breath coming in ragged, painful, and desperate huffs. With a brutal kick, the plague demon sent Sarahiko flying. She declared that if her bugs couldn't reach him, she would just have to deposit the demonic parasites into his body directly. Sarahiko coughed up a terrifying amount of blood as the demon licked her fingers. She mockingly apologized for injuring his abdomen, though her sadistic expression told a completely different and darker story. The psycho stepped on Sarahiko's hand with a sickening crunch to stop him from making seals. She decided to shed his hands while bugs began to swarm over his helpless, broken body. Standing over her broken opponent, the demon asked if he still had any hope left. Sarahiko could only glare back through the blood, but Momotaro was finally ready to join the fight. In a flash, the demon turned her attention to Kensuke, slicing through him without a second thought. She laughed at his efforts, finding his attempt to intervene completely pathetic and beneath her. Sarahiko screamed in agony as he watched Kensuke collapse into a pool of blood. The demon just called his friend a weakling, further taunting Sarahiko about being the only strong one left. She sent Sarahiko tumbling across the ground with another powerful kick. The demon mocked his boring friends, claiming they didn't suit him at all, while he desperately yelled for her to stop. The tension reached a breaking point as a blade was slowly drawn from its scabbard. Momotaro gripped his sword tightly, his hand steady despite the absolute carnage unfolding right before his eyes. Momotaro finally lunged forward, his blade cutting through the air with divine precision. He struck the plague demon with incredible force, his ornate haori fluttering as he unleashed his righteous and powerful fury. The demon's head went flying, bouncing across the grass with a series of dull thuds. Her headless body finally crumpled to the ground, ending her sadistic reign of terror in a single instant. Momotaro rushed to his retainer's side, desperate to heal the bugs swarming over him. Sarahiko tried to push him away, stubbornly insisting that he was fine despite the obvious and very lethal injuries. Our boy Sarahiko selflessly begged Momotaro to save Kensuke and Yukijuro first. He claimed he didn't care about his own life, even as the demonic bugs continued to drain his remaining strength. The toll was too much, and Sarahiko coughed up another spray of dark blood. Momotaro watched in silent horror as his most loyal friend finally reached his limit and completely collapsed before him. Momotaro, the legendary demon slayer, stares ahead as black feathers fall around him. He's the chosen one, sent by the gods to stop the plagues ravaging historical Japan. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts. A clawed hand reaches out, a sword hilt is gripped tight, and our hero's eyes widen in shock as an overwhelming presence finally reveals itself. There's no time to react. A massive slash tears through the air, sending blood spraying everywhere. Momotaro grits his teeth, his body reeling from the brutal, unexpected blow. This guy collapses to the ground with a heavy thud, defeated. The demon stands over him, mocking how close he came to actually posing a threat before everything collapsed. The plague demon gloats while holding a severed head, savoring her victory. She thanks Sarahiko for the true key, admitting she would have died without consuming their powerful life forces. It's a complete massacre. His loyal retainers, Sarahiko, Kensuke, and Yukijuro, all lie motionless in the grass, their lives drained away by the monster's insatiable hunger for spirit energy. As the world fades to black, a divine voice calls out to Momotaro. He's barely clinging to consciousness, his vision blurring as he prepares for whatever comes after this tragedy. The goddess explains the situation. They're all going to die. However, this dangerous demon must be stopped eventually, and Momotaro is the only one who can strike it down. She promises to remake him in a magical peach. He'll accumulate power and be born again, but someone needs to stay behind and protect him for hundreds of years. The catch is cruel. 2 of his retainers' lives must be sacrificed to grant the third an immortal body. He's being forced to choose which friend survives the massacre. Momotaro's eye trembles in disbelief. He has to decide who will be left alive to carry the burden of immortality while the others vanish from the mortal path forever. Our boy clenches his fist in rage. He hates the idea of forcing his companions to wait in solitude, especially when no one knows how long the reincarnation will take. He screams out his frustration at the sky. Reincarnating could take centuries, and he can't stand the thought of leaving his loyal friends behind in such a lonely state. The goddess tells him to choose quickly, or everyone will perish. Momotaro's gaze softens as he looks at the spirits of his friends, the weight of the decision crushing him. He stares down at his blood-soaked hand, trembling with grief. He has to make the hardest call of his life to ensure the future of humanity isn't lost today. Tears stream down his face as he finally whispers a name, Sarahiko. He's chosen his ninja retainer to be the immortal guardian who will watch over the legendary peach. Light erupts around the fallen warriors as their souls are harvested. Sarahiko stands alone, watching in silence as his companions dissolve into glowing shards, leaving him the sole survivor. Momotaro apologizes for forcing this painful duty onto him. The peach rests on the ground, small and defenseless, containing the only hope for the hero's return in the future. He has faith that a ninja like Sarahiko can endure the long wait. This guy watches his master fade away, prepared to spend his immortality guarding the sacred peach alone. The scene shifts to the vast, empty mountains of ancient Japan. Only someone with his incredible resolve could possibly survive the crushing weight of 3 centuries of absolute solitude. Stars swirl overhead as the years blur into decades. Will he be able to see this through to the end? It's a long journey with no guarantee of success. Fast forward 300 years, and the landscape has transformed into modern Tokyo. The once quiet hills are now a concrete jungle, bustling with technology and millions of oblivious people. The peach sits on a ritual tray, glowing with ancient power. After centuries of waiting, it's finally time for the legendary Momotaro to be reborn and finish the fight. Suddenly, the shell pops open with a soft crack. But instead of a legendary warrior, out comes this tiny, round chick looking totally lost. This isn't the epic return Momotaro expected. The mighty hero is now just a fluffy yellow bird. He lets out a tiny peep, staring at his wings like he can't believe he's actually become a literal talking nugget. This tiny chick keeps peeping, seemingly trying to figure out how it ended up in this fluffy body. It's a far cry from the legendary warrior Momotaro once was. The peeping continues as the camera pans out, showing the room where our hero was reborn. It looks like a traditional shrine area, likely kept secret for all these centuries. Momotaro realizes he can't even speak human words anymore. Every time he tries to say something important, it just comes out as a confused, high-pitched squawk from his tiny body. This guy is having a total identity crisis. He was expecting an epic rebirth as a powerful human, but instead, he's a literal baby bird stuck inside a giant peach. Suddenly, a hilarious realization hits him. Humans aren't even born from peaches. Our boy is completely baffled by how the legendary myth actually works in practice after all this time. He begins to sense something sinister nearby. It's not a bug, but a full-blown demon. Even in this weak form, his warrior instincts are screaming at him to move immediately. Momotaro tries to hop toward the threat, but he's incredibly slow. His tiny legs can't keep up with his mind, leaving him frustrated as he struggles to get anywhere fast. He sees a sick girl in bed, afflicted by a bug that's draining her life force. He desperately wants to help her, but he's currently just a helpless, fluffy bird. Suddenly, a guy in a hoodie slams the door open. Momotaro is shocked. Why is this person here? It turns out this guy is the one controlling the parasitic demon bug. The creep is furious, screaming about why he isn't getting any life force. He doesn't notice the tiny bird watching him with intense eyes from the corner of the room. This guy is definitely a demon in disguise. Momotaro watches as the villain prepares to attack, feeling completely powerless to stop the impending tragedy in his current feathered state. But wait, a figure suddenly appears and lands a massive kick on the demon. The impact is so powerful it sends the creep flying across the entire hospital room. The newcomer tells the demon to be quiet because a sick person is trying to sleep. Momotaro stares in awe at the cool, stoic young man who just arrived. Our boy's eyes widen as he recognizes the familiar face. It's Sarahiko. The ninja retainer he chose to be immortal has actually survived all these centuries to see him again. Momotaro tries to announce his return, chirping excitedly at his old friend. Sarahiko looks down, completely unfazed by the talking bird claiming to be his legendary master from the past. The ninja calmly asks Momotaro to wait a second while he finishes off the demon. He doesn't seem surprised at all, which actually kind of hurts our hero's feelings. Momotaro is absolutely stunned by the lukewarm reaction. He's been gone for 300 years, and his most loyal retainer just acts like it's another normal day at work. He continues to chirp in frustration, wondering why Sarahiko isn't more excited. After centuries of waiting, this wasn't exactly the epic reunion the legendary hero had envisioned in his head. Sarahiko admits everything is happening a bit suddenly. He explains that it's hard to wrap his head around his legendary master being reborn as a tiny, round yellow chick. The demon in the hoodie finally reveals his true form, mocking the humans. Meanwhile, Sarahiko casually spins a kunai on his finger, looking completely bored by the current threat. Sarahiko explains that 3 centuries have passed since they were separated in the Kyoto era. The world has changed, and they are now living in the modern Reiwa era. During those 300 years, humans have continued to battle plague demons. Momotaro can only squawk in shock at how much time has truly slipped through his fingers while he slept. Sarahiko grins, holding his weapon with total confidence. He tells his master that they've grown plenty strong during his long absence, and he's about to prove it right now. Sarahiko isn't playing around, landing a perfect hit with his kunai. His speed is just insane. It's clear this ninja has been honing his skills for hundreds of years. The demon screams in agony, realizing his wounds won't heal. Sarahiko doesn't even flinch, looking just as cold as he did back in the day while gearing up for the finisher. Sarahiko unleashes a powerful spiritual seal, shouting Orion as an explosion of light consumes the demon. The impact is massive, leaving the monster completely defenseless against the ninja's centuries of refined power. The demon screams in agony as its body begins to fleck away into nothingness. Our hero, currently in his tiny chick form, watches in total shock as the threat is effortlessly erased. Sarahiko calmly drops his silver kunai, explaining that he learned about demons' weaknesses from a foreign demon. It turns out that after 300 years, he's become quite the expert on monster hunting. He goes into detail about the science behind it, assuming the demon's immortality is somehow tied to sulfur. Since silver reacts with sulfur, it's the perfect weapon to halt their supernatural regeneration. The guy even mentions that demons avoid pungent scents like garlic to identify each other. He casually drags the defeated demon away, treating the whole ordeal like a simple day of bug extermination. Looking at his stoic companion, Momotaro gets emotional. He asks if Sarahiko has truly been hunting these monsters all by himself for the last 3 centuries, burdened by the command he left behind. Sarahiko just scoffs with a slight smirk, telling the little bird that he hasn't been working alone at all. He's clearly built something much bigger while his master was sleeping inside a peach. Suddenly, a group of modern-looking people and even a dog appear behind him. It turns out the one solitary ninja has actually made some friends and organized them into professional demon hunting squads. Sarahiko checks his phone, reporting that the demon has been suppressed. Meanwhile, his Yellow Bird Squad confirms that the sick girl has finally regained consciousness, showing how efficient this new organization is. The little hero is completely blindsided by this revelation. He watches as Sarahiko casually chats with his teammates about taking the Red Dog Squad's turn, realizing he's no longer the only powerhouse around. Momotaro reflects on the past, remembering how much the ninja used to love working alone. Our hero never imagined that his simple command would lead to the creation of a massive, modern-day army. Sarahiko looks back with a soft expression, admitting he couldn't have made a dent in their numbers by himself. He took his master's orders seriously, knowing he needed more than just his own strength. A flashback shows the human Momotaro giving the order that started it all: save as many people as possible. It's clear that these words were the foundation of Sarahiko's 300-year mission. The little bird's eyes glisten with tears of gratitude. He's deeply moved by the incredible loyalty and hard work his retainer has shown during their long time apart from each other. Sarahiko reaches out to the bird, smiling as he admits the mission was difficult, but he's had a great time. Momotaro finally breaks down, thanking him for everything he's done for humanity. As the sun sets over modern Tokyo, this guy holds his master and asks the most important question: why is he a chick? Momotaro screams back that he'd really like to know that, too. Flashback to years ago, a young boy named Fushimi Kaido gasped for breath as a high fever took over. He looked absolutely miserable, calling out for his mother through the pain. A terrifying sight revealed itself deep inside the child's chest. Squirming, snake-like parasites were coiling around his heart, draining his life force while the boy begged for someone to help him. In the Edo period, demons were known as the hidden cause of illnesses. These monsters were experts at mimicry, blending into human crowds to avoid being caught by the common folk. Because of the chaos, the shogunate dismissed demons as mere fairy tales to prevent widespread panic. Meanwhile, people grew suspicious, leading to dangerous bouts of vigilante justice throughout the city. Hidden in the shadows, secret ninja squads worked tirelessly to exterminate these demonic threats. Their knowledge was passed down through generations, eventually reaching the hands of the modern Meiji government. Fast forward to the present Reiwa era, where the war against sickness continues. This massive hospital serves as a front for Tao, the ninja organization still dedicated to hunting down demons. Back in the past, Kaido's condition was getting worse by the second. The doctors knew that standard medicine stood no chance against such powerful supernatural bugs inhabiting the boy's body. The medical staff whispered about a specialized treatment involving key breath control. They were hesitant, wondering if the child's guardian would ever consent to such a mysterious and risky procedure. Suddenly, the door swung open as a familiar figure stepped into the room. It was Sarahiko, looking calm and composed as the lead doctor gasped in total disbelief at his arrival. The poor kid was terrified, asking if he and his mother were really going to die. Right then, the ninja stepped forward, raising his hands to begin a supernatural treatment. With a sharp, focused command, Sarahiko channeled his energy directly into the boy's body. The technique was intense, glowing with a power that conventional medicine could never hope to replicate. The agonizing pain suddenly vanished, replaced by a soothing warmth that spread through his limbs. The doctors watched in awe as the legendary ninja personally handled the boy's dire situation. Sarahiko explained that he had to use a more advanced technique because the bug was exceptionally powerful. He didn't want to waste time with slower methods when Kaido's life was at stake. The doctors finally confirmed the patient's identity as 6-year-old Fushimi Kaido. Sarahiko listened quietly, his expression unreadable as he prepared to finish his vital work for the young boy. He gently placed a hand on the boy's head, promising to wait until he felt stronger before fully exterminating the parasites. It was a heavy burden for such a small body. Looking down with a rare, kind smile, Sarahiko praised the young boy for being so brave. It was a small moment of humanity in their otherwise dark and dangerous world. Without a moment to lose, Sarahiko turned to leave, intent on tracking down the demon responsible. He had restrained the bug for now, but the true threat was still out there. Kaido watched the man go with wide, shimmering eyes, completely captivated by his hero's strength. In that moment, he decided that Sarahiko was the coolest person he had ever met. Back in the present day, we find ourselves at the Hirosaka Acupuncture Clinic. This building serves as Sarahiko's base of operations, where he works as a practitioner to keep his cover. Inside, Momotaro sat on a cushion, looking skeptical about his retainer's choice of cover. Sarahiko simply shrugged, pointing out that he couldn't exactly put ninja on his front door sign. The tiny hero was shocked to learn that his old friend even adopted a surname for his modern life. Sarahiko casually explained that surnames are mandatory now, so he's Hirosaka Sarahiko. Wait, did Sarahiko just mention a nephew? Momotaro's eyes went wide as he tried to process how his immortal ninja retainer could possibly have any modern family members at all. Our boy nearly fell off his cushion in shock, screaming about Sarahiko having a wife. The stoic ninja didn't even flinch, explaining how family titles like nephew work nowadays. Sarahiko reveals he actually got married years ago just to blend in better. He even shows off a memory of the traditional wedding ceremony they held back in the day. Momotaro asks if they had any kids, but the ninja just shakes his head. His wife passed away a long time ago, leaving him to continue his long life alone. Sarahiko continued, mentioning his wife was more like a reliable friend since their marriage was just for cover. He looked a bit nostalgic while explaining their quiet life together. Momotaro was stunned to realize Sarahiko actually built a whole new life and family. The ninja casually mentioned how Kinsuke would have been happy to hear our boy was finally awake. Hearing that name brought back a flood of memories. Momotaro gasped, thinking about Kinsuke from 300 years ago while Sarahiko sat there, lost in his own thoughts. Sarahiko let out a soft chuckle, likely imagining how their old hot-headed friend would react to all of this. It's a rare moment where he looks genuinely relaxed and happy. This guy teased that Kinsuke would have definitely asked way too many annoying questions. He still remembers his old friends so clearly, which really touched our little bird's heart. Overwhelmed with guilt, Momotaro suddenly bowed his head, apologizing for everything. He felt terrible for leaving his loyal retainer to face 3 centuries of loneliness all by himself. The tiny hero couldn't even imagine the hardships Sarahiko endured during those long years. Seeing his retainer's stoic expression made him realize just how much this man had sacrificed. Momotaro realized that while he basically slept and woke up in the future, Sarahiko had to live every single day. He asked if the ninja really spent 3 centuries alone. Our boy shouted, yes, as he confirmed that his entire experience was like a single night's sleep. The realization of the time gap finally started to sink in properly. Sarahiko sighed, admitting he basically slept like a log for 300 years too. He didn't want any excuses, feeling like he'd also abandoned his duty while waiting. Tears welled up in Momotaro's eyes as he thought about how tough it would be for a ninja to be conscious but unable to move. He was just glad Sarahiko survived. To help with the boredom, Sarahiko revealed he played music and comedy through a radio for Momotaro. This little bird was baffled. Could his retainer actually perform music and jokes? The stoic ninja quickly denied it, saying he only played the recordings because Yukijiro used to like that stuff. A brief memory of a young archer playing his shamisen appeared. Momotaro started wondering how he knew things from the outside world while trapped in the peach. They suspected this strangely smooth communication was the work of a powerful divine deity. Sarahiko admitted he hadn't heard a single word from the god who reincarnated them. He grumbled about being turned into a chick, wondering what on earth the deity was thinking. Suddenly, the chick-shaped object on the table started glowing and spoke up. A voice congratulated Momotaro on finally waking up, identifying itself as the great god, Owakamazumi no Mikoto. Our tiny hero was absolutely shocked by the sudden divine appearance. Sarahiko casually explained he could talk to the god through this object, though Momotaro hated the undignified shape. This guy explained he built the god-summoning object from a state-of-the-art speaker. Now, the deity was busy downloading ancient data directly into our boy's head, much to his confusion. Sarahiko leaned in, looking serious as he asked what kind of memories were being transferred. He wanted to make sure his master's head wouldn't explode from all the information. The god dropped a bombshell. He was transferring all of Sarahiko's memories into Momotaro. Both of them completely lost it, screaming in shock at the insane and unexpected revelation. The deity quickly clarified that he was only sharing semantic memory, which is basically just knowledge. He explained there are many types of memory, and he wasn't sharing everything. Momotaro let out a massive sigh of relief, glad he wouldn't see his retainer's personal life. The god confirmed that episodic memories, like private experiences, were staying private. This deity teased that they should be more upset about him looking inside their heads. He went on a mini-lecture about how humans can suffer amnesia, but still read. The deity warned that Momotaro would definitely be sobbing by tomorrow. Our boy panicked, wondering what was so sad, while Sarahiko just wanted to know the ETA for the massive download. This god told Momotaro he should be proud of his loyal monkey. Sarahiko spent 3 centuries studying and preparing everything for his return, packing an insane amount of knowledge into this. The god warned that downloading 3 centuries of knowledge would take an entire day. This massive information dump was going to give Momotaro a fever that would really smart. Our boy started sweating immediately as the download began. He felt like his tiny head was about to explode from all the ancient data flooding into his brain all at once. Sarahiko stood by, feeling a bit helpless since he never actually nursed a chicken back to health. Momotaro groaned, complaining that he was literally turning into steamed chicken at this rate. The stoic ninja started frantically searching the internet for ways to cool down a bird. Momotaro finally realized that the mysterious glowing slab Sarahiko was holding was actually a portable calculator. Panting heavily on his cushion, the tiny hero could barely stay conscious. Sarahiko promised to bring something cold to help lower his temperature before heading out of the room. Suddenly, a tall figure in a sugar glider tracksuit stepped into the clinic. He looked down at the panting chick, his expression unreadable as he loomed over the helpless hero. Without saying a word, the mysterious stranger reached down and scooped Momotaro up into his large hands. Our boy was caught completely off guard, staring up in total confusion and fear. The blond man stared intensely at the tiny bird in his palm, looking absolutely bewildered. He shouted in surprise, demanding to know who, or what, this strange little creature actually was. This guy suddenly sensed something powerful and dangerous coming from the chick. His eyes widened as he realized the tiny bird had the unmistakable aura of a demon, making Momotaro shudder. Right then, Sarahiko returned and immediately identified the newcomer as Fushimi Kaido. This shaggy-haired blonde was the same boy our ninja had saved years ago, now fully grown and looking dangerous. The stoic ninja didn't look happy, telling Kaido to keep his hands off the bird. He made it clear that Momotaro wasn't someone that a brat like him should touch casually. Sarahiko wondered why the guy wasn't busy cleaning up after the previous demon hunt. Kaido just smirked, admitting he was curious about what could be more important to Sarahiko than duty. Panicking, Momotaro screamed for his retainer to be careful, claiming this man wasn't human at all. He could feel a terrifying, monstrous power radiating from the shaggy-haired blonde holding him. Our boy was shocked when Sarahiko calmly explained that Kaido wasn't a demon, but a demon eater. The tiny hero had never heard of such a thing in all his years. We learned that demons typically invade human bodies using tiny parasites called bugs. These nasty creatures suck out a person's life force, or true ki, leaving the poor victim weak and ill. However, there are some rare humans who can actually absorb those bugs to gain their own supernatural powers. These specialized fighters are known as demon eaters, and they're incredibly dangerous individuals. Momotaro watched as Kaido struck a pose, looking quite proud of himself. Sarahiko warned that even among his kind, this guy's aura was abnormal and unsettlingly similar to an actual demon's. The ninja explained that Kaido fell victim to a troublesome demon called Kasamushi 12 years ago. This particular monster used snake-like bugs to inflict lethal, high-fever illnesses on hundreds of people. Kaido was one of those infected victims, hanging on by a thread when Sarahiko found him. Surprisingly, the demon responsible had already died before the ninja could even reach the scene. A grim flashback showed the shriveled body of a victim who'd been completely drained of life. The demon's power was terrifying, leaving nothing behind but a hollow shell of a person. Sarahiko admitted he'd never heard of someone consuming a demon through its own bugs until he met Kaido. Even after his recovery, the boy's presence was enough to send chills down anyone's spine. Despite his terrifying origins, young Kaido seemed surprisingly happy and energetic after his recovery. He stood there with a massive, dark aura looming behind him, looking like a total monster in disguise. The ninja confessed he had a practical reason for keeping the boy around. Kaido turned out to be a good kid with no bad intentions, eventually agreeing to help Sarahiko hunt demons. Flashback to when Kaido was just a kid, looking up at Sarahiko like he was a total legend. Our boy promised that one day, he'd grow up to be just as badass. Back in the present, this shaggy-haired guy smirks while giving Momotaro a playful squish. He teases the bird for being badass, though the little guy is clearly not having it. Kaido continued to pester the poor chick, suggesting that Sarahiko should have gotten a more traditional pet like a goldfish. Momotaro just sighed, finding this new guy to be a real pain. Sarahiko looked serious, reminding Kaido that Momotaro was currently weak with a fever. He told the younger man that if he truly wanted to be like him, he should show some compassion. Our boy felt a cooling sensation as Sarahiko placed an ice pack on his head. The ninja told Kaido to help nurse the bird, just like he had helped Kaido years ago. While Sarahiko stepped away to take a phone call, Kaido was left grumbling as he awkwardly tried to look after the bird. Momotaro could only hope his retainer would hurry back soon. On the phone, Sarahiko learned that a demon had managed to escape their previous encounter. He realized he'd made a mistake by leaving the cleanup to the unpredictable and distracted Kaido. The stoic ninja told Kaido to get moving and track down the escaped demon. However, the blonde demon eater just sat there looking bored, clearly not in the mood for any work. Sarahiko explained he couldn't leave Momotaro alone in his current state, so he needed Kaido's help. Kaido just smirked, asking if his mentor was really in any position to be begging him. Kaido looked his mentor in the eye, telling him to stop being so polite. He wanted Sarahiko to act like a real boss and give him a proper, authoritative order to leave. Finally losing his patience, Sarahiko snapped and screamed at the moron to get off his ass and go. Surprisingly, Kaido looked thrilled by the verbal abuse and immediately rushed out the door. As Sarahiko returned to nursing the tiny hero, he noted that Kaido had absorbed many eccentricities from the demons he'd consumed. He's a difficult mad dog, but his skills are definitely real. Fushimi Kaido tracked the demon's scent with predatory focus, moving through the city like a bloodhound. This guy's perception was so sharp he could find a monster's trail in seconds. He didn't waste any time, landing a heavy punch that completely rattled his target. This mad dog might look unhinged, but he's easily one of the most dependable guys on the team. Kaido stood over the defeated creep as the support units finally arrived. He was already grumbling about wanting to go home, acting like he had better things to do than babysit. The villain looked up in pure shock, demanding to know who these people actually were. Kaido just looked down with a bored expression. He wasn't exactly in the mood for an interview. This dude leaned in with a confident smirk, dropping the truth bomb with zero hesitation. He coolly declared they were ninjas, the hidden guardians still hunting demons in the modern era. Kaido explained the organization's structure, from the intelligence-gathering Blue Monkey Squad to the support-focused Yellow Bird Team. Of course, his own Red Dog squad handled the heavy-duty action. Together, they formed Tao, a massive ninja organization dedicated to wiping every demon off the face of the earth. These guys were the secret wall between humanity and the supernatural bugs. The possessed guy screamed as shadowy hands dragged him toward a swirling void. This was the end of the line. The parasite inside him was being evicted by force. Kaido explained that this was a gateway to the underworld, a one-way trip for any demon caught in their sights. He was personally sending this creep back to the land of the dead. With a sharp click, the portal snapped shut, erasing the threat from existence. The mission was a total success, and the ninjas of Tao proved they still ruled the city's shadows. Back at the clinic, Sarahiko was busy spoon-feeding our legendary hero, Momotaro. Even though he's currently a fluffy white chick, his retainers still treated him with the same old loyalty and care. Sarahiko talked about his refined techniques and the new demon eater companion he'd found. Momotaro just sat there sweating, realizing he had a lot of catching up to do in this era. Seeing how efficient the modern ninjas were, Momotaro started having a serious existential crisis. He stared blankly into space, wondering if a legendary hero in a chick's body was even necessary. As Sarahiko scrolled through his phone, Momotaro grew increasingly worried about his future. He spiraled into a panic, fearing he'd end up as nothing more than a pampered pet for his retainer. It didn't help that Sarahiko was literally looking up how to care for baby chicks. He even suggested getting a wooden box, making Momotaro realize his chicken status was being accepted too fast. As night fell, Sarahiko carefully tucked Momotaro into a tiny, custom-made bed. Our legendary warrior could only let out a frustrated sigh as he was pampered like a literal baby bird. Momotaro's mind raced as he tried to reconcile his past glory with his current state. He was once the legendary hero born from a peach, a warrior who led a great army. He remembered his life in the Edo period, fighting demons alongside Sarahiko. But now, he was reborn in the Reiwa era as a round bird that couldn't even lift a training sword. He sat there, staring at his tiny wings and wondering if he could ever truly protect anyone again. The gap between his heroic spirit and this fluffy body was starting to hurt. Kaido broke the heavy mood by suddenly taking snap photos of the cute chick. He jokingly asked how Chick Taro was feeling, which immediately set Momotaro off in a fit of rage. This guy was clearly enjoying himself, rating his photography skills a perfect 10 out of 10. He seemed way more concerned with getting a good shot than his boss's legendary reputation. Momotaro stared at the glowing phone, realizing it was one of those smartphones he'd heard about. He then turned his focus to Kaido, finally connecting the dots about who this guy was. Kaido told him to stop moving so he could get a clear picture, but Momotaro was too busy bouncing around. He desperately wanted to see how he looked through the camera lens. Kaido grinned, showing off the shot like it was a total masterpiece. He was pretty proud of himself for catching such a rare moment on his phone. One look at the screen, and Momotaro totally lost it. He wailed in despair, finally accepting the brutal truth. He really was just a tiny, pathetic-looking chicken. Kaido grumbled about Sarahiko's stubbornness, mentioning that the guy absolutely hates taking photos. Our boy really wanted a picture, but Sarahiko wouldn't let anyone catch him on camera. They shifted the topic to Sarahiko's actual day job, running a cover business as an acupuncturist. While Kaido joked around, they arrived at the quiet Hirosaka acupuncture clinic to find him. Inside the clinic, Sarahiko was hard at work treating a patient. He suddenly spotted a wriggling demon bug near the man's body, realizing the parasite hadn't fully burrowed inside just yet. Instead of using fancy tools, Sarahiko casually decided to just crush the disgusting thing with his bare hands. He figured there was no need to waste needles on such a pathetic bug. The treatment worked wonders, and the elderly patient thanked the director with a huge smile. He felt incredibly light, completely unaware that a supernatural parasite was just squashed right beside him. The old man, Takasaki-sen, mentioned that his wife was also feeling a bit under the weather today. Sarahiko listened intently, noticing that the man had come alone for the very first time. Takasaki-san looked worried as he described his wife's strange behavior, mentioning she'd been talking nonsense lately. Sarahiko's expression sharpened, suspecting that a demon bug might be the real cause. Fearing a brain invasion, Sarahiko realized he needed to act fast to save the woman. He told the old man he wanted to examine her immediately before the situation got any worse. Meanwhile, Kaido finally made it home and checked in on Momo-san. The little chick bounced around happily, claiming he was feeling right as rain despite his ridiculous new bird body. Kaido couldn't wait to show Sarahiko the hilarious photo he'd snapped of Chikataro. They quickly set up a weird speaker on the table, preparing to summon the god Oakazumi no Mikoto for answers. Momotaro didn't waste any time, demanding to know why on earth he was reborn as a chicken. The speaker crackled to life as the god finally prepared to address his concerns. The god revealed that this fluffy chick form was actually just a temporary measure. He explained that Momotaro would return to his original warrior form once he recovered enough of his power. Sarahiko listened quietly as the god dropped a bombshell. It would take another 300 years to transform naturally. Our boy realized his current energy levels were nowhere near enough to change back. The god revealed a shortcut: demon eaters, humans who gain power by consuming demon bugs. Kaido just sat there, the perfect example of this bizarre and honestly disgusting practice. Momotaro had a vision of his former self, a powerful warrior with a sword in hand. To get that body back, he'd have to follow the god's disgusting new plan. The god commanded him to eat as many bugs as possible to save humanity and regain his true form. Momotaro stared blankly, processing the fact that his diet was about to change. The idea of eating literal parasites sent a shiver through Momotaro's tiny feathers. He couldn't believe the god was actually suggesting he swallow those wriggling, disgusting little demon bugs. He let out a loud gross, his tiny bird face full of pure revulsion. The legendary hero was definitely not thrilled about the prospect of becoming a supernatural insect eater. His imagination ran wild with images of slimy, multi-legged monsters he'd have to gulp down. Even Kaido and Sarahiko seemed to find the whole concept of bug eating pretty nauseating. Sarahiko suddenly felt guilty for crushing that bug earlier, realizing it was a wasted meal for Momotaro. Our boy just panicked, desperately wishing there was any other way to transform. The two ninjas started discussing if they could use ki breath control to preserve bugs for later consumption. Momotaro just shuddered, thinking fermented bugs sounded even worse than the fresh ones. While walking outside, Momotaro continued his loud tantrum about the disgusting new mission. He was terrified of getting a stomach ache and wondered what those nasty things would even taste like. Suddenly, two energetic young ninjas popped up with a cheerful HIYA. These were the yellow bird twins, and they looked way too excited to be joining this weird demon hunting group. Kaido was clearly annoyed to see these two invading his home. He demanded to know why the yellow bird squad was there, while the pair just started snooping around his space. Sarahiko explained they were officially the support crew, but these two had other priorities. They were already drooling over Momotaro, wondering if they'd be having fried chicken for dinner tonight. The two energetic ninjas introduced themselves as Shizuka and Hinata. Sarahiko explained their top-tier Kijutsu users within the Tao organization, much to the surprise of our little legendary chick. The twins immediately started poking fun at Kaido, mocking him for being unable to use Kijutsu. Apparently, this guy just brute forces everything with his ki breath control instead of using magic. Kaido smirked, admitting he lacked the necessary faith since Sarahiko was the only god he recognized. Sarahiko explained that Kijutsu is a supernatural power bestowed by the gods, requiring total mental dedication. Sarahiko further clarified that ki breath control focuses one's own life force for healing and combat. Momotaro looked around in awe, realizing a massive amount of elite talent was gathered right here. Suddenly, an ordinary-looking man named Shoichi appeared, revealed to be the actual director of the clinic. Turns out he's part of a complicated family tie linked to Sarahiko's secret cover story. Sarahiko asked Shoichi to watch over the group while he handled some business. Kaido watched the exchange with a skeptical gaze, clearly wondering what was really going on behind the scenes. Things got a bit tense when Kaido realized he was the only one left out of the mission to Kyoto. He looked absolutely devastated, wondering why Sarahiko hadn't invited him along. Shoichi stepped in to stop the bickering, reminding everyone that they all had cover jobs to maintain. Even elite ninjas have to play their part in society to keep the secret safe. The old man revealed he was a member of Tao as well, offering to take over duties. Since Momotaro seemed fine, Sarahiko decided it was finally time to head for Kyoto. Shoichi beamed with pride, genuinely happy that Sarahiko had finally reached out and asked for his help. He looked like he'd been waiting for this moment of recognition for a long time. Sarahiko gave a gentle, knowing smile as he prepared to depart. He told the group to take care of themselves, his calm demeanor never wavering despite the serious mission ahead of them. As they waved goodbye, Momotaro couldn't help but feel that Sarahiko had built himself a pretty great family. The scene was surprisingly heartwarming for a group of secret supernatural demon hunters. The sun began to set over the sprawling city, casting long shadows across the skyline. It was a beautiful view, but also a reminder that the demons would soon be coming out. While walking, Kaido brought up a rumor about an old photo of Sarahiko with a traditional top knot. Sarahiko immediately shut him down with a firm no, clearly hiding some embarrassing past. Kaido wouldn't let it go, teasing him about having pictures in fancy clothing hidden away somewhere. Sarahiko's eye twitched in annoyance as he told the persistent blonde guy to finally shut up. They arrived at a suburban house and rang the doorbell. An elderly man named Takasaki greeted them, looking relieved that Sarahiko had actually come all this way to examine his wife. Kaido tried to act natural, introducing himself as a trainee who was just there to study. Takasaki looked a bit confused by the lanky guy, but he was too worried to care. As they entered, Sarahiko warned that acupuncture might not be the right solution for this specific case. He knew they were dealing with something far more sinister than a simple physical ailment. The poor woman, Kazuko, was in a terrible state, shouting nonsensical phrases about tomatoes and cat dances. It was a clear sign that a demon bug had completely taken over her mind. The group watched in grim silence as she continued her bizarre rambling. Takasaki looked heartbroken, asking if she was really being manipulated like some kind of helpless paper doll by the demon. Sarahiko watched her intently, sensing a strange logic behind her madness. While Kaido was completely baffled by the nonsense, our main man realized the woman might actually be trying to communicate. Takasaki showed them a photo his wife claimed was Sarahiko, but it was just a random man. Kaido's hopes for a top-knot picture were crushed, much to his massive disappointment. In a surprising move, Sarahiko asked Kazuko for a piece of candy. When she responded with another random phrase, he just thanked her politely, acting like they were having a normal chat. The woman keeps screaming about cleaning and signals, but our boy Sarahiko isn't fazed. He listens closely, somehow finding a pattern in all that weird, glitchy talk she's spewing out. Takasaki is stunned that anyone. Takasaki reminisced about how happy his wife, Kazuko, used to be. He absolutely loved seeing her chatting away with that bright, cheerful smile before the strange illness took over her life. Back in the present, Sarahiko carefully examined Kazuko, noticing the deep suffering etched on her face. He knew that the problem was far more serious than a simple physical ailment. There was a disgusting demon bug burrowed in her neck. Sarahiko realized that while healing her would be easy, capturing the parasite alive for Momotaro to eat would be much harder. He focused his ki, knowing that even a tiny mistake could kill the weak parasite. Momotaro watched nervously, telling Sarahiko that it was perfectly okay if the delicate capture ended in failure. With expert precision, Sarahiko slowly drew the long, wriggling creature out of the woman's neck. The disgusting sight made Momotaro's tiny eyes bulge in pure horror as the parasite was finally removed. Sarahiko stared intensely at the writhing bug, his expression cold and focused. Momotaro tried to psyche himself up, desperately telling himself he could do this despite the sheer revulsion he felt. The moment of truth arrived as Momotaro prepared to swallow the slimy creature whole. Both he and Sarahiko let out muffled cries of disgust as the legendary hero faced his nastiest challenge. Momotaro struggled to gulp down the parasite, complaining about the absolutely foul texture. He was surprised to find that while it wasn't exactly delicious, it didn't taste nearly as bad as expected. The treatment worked instantly, and Kazuko looked around with clarity in her eyes once again. Sarahiko gently checked on her, asking how she was feeling now that the demon was gone. Kazuko beamed with her signature joy, immediately apologizing for not offering tea and promising some cake instead. Sarahiko gave a rare, satisfied smirk, relieved to see the couple's happiness restored. Takasaki was absolutely stunned by his wife's sudden recovery, barely able to believe she was all better. Kazuko just looked confused, wondering what all the fuss and emotional outbursts were about. Sarahiko played it cool, claiming that her condition was just a transient speech disorder. He kept the supernatural truth hidden, simply expressing his genuine relief that her suffering had finally ended. He explained that the disorder was like being trapped in a foreign country where you can't speak the language. You can understand everything perfectly, but you just can't relay your own thoughts. Kaido and Takasaki listened intently to the explanation, realizing how terrifying the experience must have been. Takasaki looked at his wife with renewed love, happy she could finally hear his voice again. The group heard the couple laughing and sharing their love inside the house. It was a beautiful, heartwarming moment that made all the disgusting bug-eating seem worth it in the end. As they walked away, Kaido noticed how affectionate the old couple was and asked if Sarahiko would ever marry again. He knew Sarahiko had been married once before, long ago. Sarahiko didn't hesitate for a single second, firmly stating that there would never be a second time. Kaido and Momotaro were both taken aback by his cold and absolute response. He explained that marriage simply wasn't for him, his eyes filled with a deep, unspoken sadness. Momotaro watched him walk away, wondering about the secrets his loyal retainer was still hiding. Looking back at the house, they saw the elderly couple holding hands, a perfect picture of a pair growing old together. It was the kind of peace Sarahiko seemed to have abandoned. Later that night, Momotaro snuck away to have a private conversation with the god, Kamuzumi. He moved quietly through the house, making sure nobody saw him approaching the mysterious speaker device. Momotaro asked the god if he could finally release Sarahiko from his immortal mission. Now that he was back, he didn't want his friend to be burdened by his protection anymore. The god's answer was a blunt no, reminding Momotaro that he was still just a weak, pathetic chicken. He explained that Sarahiko's protection was mandatory until the hero regained his original form. Fueled by determination, Momotaro vowed to stop hesitating and start eating every demon bug he could find. He was ready to do whatever it took to save people and become human again. The god dropped a massive truth bomb. To get his power back, Momotaro has to eat exactly 404 demon bugs. The poor little guy was left speechless by the crazy scale of the task. Kaido looked at the tiny hero, feeling pretty skeptical. He really doubted this fluffy chicken could actually stomach hundreds of those nasty parasites, but the kid had no other choice. Momotaro's voice echoed over the sprawling city, his tiny heart sinking at the thought of eating 404 bugs. The sheer magnitude of the task ahead felt completely and utterly overwhelming. Inside the house, Kaido and Sarahiko were growing increasingly anxious. They had been trying to contact Shoichi and the twins for a while now, but every single one of their calls went unanswered. Sarahiko decided he couldn't wait any longer and announced he was heading straight to Kyoto. He invited Kaido to join him, much to the surprise of the blonde ninja who had felt left behind. Kaido muttered about how he should have gone with them in the first place, his face etched with regret. Sarahiko tried to reassure him, mentioning that the talented twins were already on site. The twins were in a state of pure panic, sobbing as they tended to the unconscious Shoichi. It was a terrifying cliffhanger, leaving the fate of their group hanging in the balance. Sarahiko's on the phone, looking pretty stressed. Contact with director Shoichi and the Tekigawara siblings is gone after they headed into Kyoto. He's got to find them fast before things get worse. Kaido shows up with some food, which our boy definitely needs right now. Sarahiko's been on the phone nonstop, coordinating with the Blue Monkey Squad to pinpoint their location in Kyoto. Kaido's actually got some good news, looking pretty chill about the whole thing. He thinks Shoichi is probably safe inside the Tekigawara siblings' barrier, supposedly the safest spot on the entire Earth. But Sarahiko isn't convinced. Every time he tries calling the director, there's this weird, creepy sound mixed in with the ringing. Something is definitely wrong, and he can feel the tension rising. Momotaro watches him, feeling for the guy. Sarahiko's been carrying this massive weight for hundreds of years. The little bird just hopes everyone is still in one piece when they finally arrive. Switching over to Kyoto, things are looking rough. Shoichi is struggling to breathe, and those disgusting parasitic bugs are writhing right under his skin. It's a total nightmare for the poor director. The director is holed up in a cave with Hinata and Shizuka, two sisters in fox-eared hoods. They're keeping a barrier up, but Shoichi is clearly in a lot of pain. Hinata peeks outside through her fingers, seeing the horrors waiting for them. Those demons are still out there, just hovering around the barrier like they're waiting for a buffet to be served. Shizuka starts losing it, crying and wanting to go home already. Shoichi pulls them both into a hug, promising that Sarahiko will be there any second now to save them all. Outside the barrier, it's a total gore fest. A group of demons is busy munching on human remains. These creeps really stand out, looking way more unhinged than your usual run-of-the-mill demons. Sarahiko finally arrives on the scene, and he's not happy. He stares at the shrine gate, his gaze sharpening. It's time to handle business and get his people back from these monsters. He and Kaido scout the area, keeping a low profile. There are way more of these things than they expected, but they seem totally disorganized, just mindlessly feasting on whatever they find. Kaido's being his usual weird self, asking Sarahiko if he prefers zombie or shark movies. This dude is way too relaxed while they're literally surrounded by man-eating monsters and a gory scene. A demon nearby is aggressively chomping on an arm, and Momotaro looks like he's about to puke. Turns out, these demons are being possessed and controlled by disgusting parasitic bugs. Sarahiko realizes a master demon must be pulling the strings. He effortlessly flicks a kunai, nailing one of the creeps right in the forehead, while Kaido watches the precision from the side. The demon just stands there with a blade in its head, not even caring. They're so focused on eating that they aren't even paying attention to anything else happening around them. Even with the kunai in its brain, the thing is still twitching. Sarahiko notes their insane regeneration, figuring these controlled, low-level demons aren't actually that strong on their own without support. Our boy decides it's time to clear the area. He looks over at Kaido and gives the order to exterminate them all. The Blue Monkey Squad will handle the cleanup later. Kaido lets out a wicked grin, absolutely loving the sound of that. This guy lives for the hunt, and he's more than ready to finally get his hands dirty. He takes a massive leap, swooping right into the middle of the pack. The demons don't even see him coming as he lands right in their face with extreme speed. This guy is a literal beast. He starts bashing heads left and right while Sarahiko makes a hand sign, keeping a close eye on his apprentice's technique from the stairs. In one swift motion, Kaido decapitates a demon with his bare hand. The blood sprays everywhere as the head goes flying. He's clearly not holding back at all in this fight. Sarahiko explains to Momotaro that Kaido is just imitating his sword sign. He uses key breath control to harden his body, making his hands sharp enough to cut through anything like butter. Kaido goes on a total rampage, slashing through those freaks like they're paper. He's laughing like a maniac, clearly having the time of his life in the middle of this bloodbath. Sarahiko just sighs at the carnage. Momotaro thinks the guy is way too intense, so our boy leaves him to it and starts scanning the ground for the hidden barrier. Sarahiko moves through the shrine grounds with practiced ease, his eyes scanning the area. He's looking for the barrier where the director and the twins are hiding from the demon horde. Our boy holds Momotaro gently, noting the incredible craftsmanship of the Tekigawara siblings. Even he can't pinpoint the exact border of their legendary barrier. It's just that well hidden. Momotaro breaks it down for him. The barrier isn't just a wall. It's actually tucked away in a completely different dimension. All they can do is wait for the group to emerge. Meanwhile, Kaido's done with the cleanup and feels totally refreshed. He stands over the mangled remains of the possessed demons, a wide grin on his face after the brutal workout. Sarahiko approaches the demon eater, surprised the guy was there the whole time. He wonders if there are more lurking around, but his focus quickly shifts to a sudden twitch nearby. The barrier finally drops, and Shoichi comes into view, practically trembling. He's got both Hinata and Shizuka clinging to him, everyone looking completely rattled after being trapped for so long. Kaido finds the whole situation hilarious, laughing at their tip-top shape. The twins are having none of it, though, screaming that they'd actually prefer dealing with the demons over him. Sarahiko kneels beside Shoichi, his expression heavy with concern. The director apologizes for being a burden, realizing that those parasitic bugs are literally eating him alive from the inside. The twins explain that they tried their best to heal him, but the bugs just kept multiplying. It's like they're giving birth to more pests faster than they can be killed off. Momotaro stares at the writhing mass of parasites, sweat dripping down his beak. These aren't just any bugs. They look exactly like the ones from the ancient war 300 years ago. Without missing a beat, Sarahiko makes a sharp hand sign and shouts "Siche." He's not about to let his friend suffer any longer and immediately begins the exorcism process. But the process is agonizing. Shoichi lets out a blood-curdling scream as the energy hits him. The twins cry out in terror, watching the director's body jerk from the intense shock. Our boy stops immediately, realizing that consecutive blasts will kill the host before the bugs. He needs a different strategy, one that doesn't put such a heavy burden on Shoichi's body. He analyzes the situation. There are way too many bugs to restrain them all individually. If he tries to funnel in true ki, the parasites will just gobble it up first. All he can do for now is suppress their movements with his technique. He clenches his fists, wishing he could somehow draw the bugs out and wipe them all out at once. Momotaro steps up, looking incredibly solemn for a small chick. He begins a divine prayer, calling upon the great and terrifying Owakamizumi no Mikoto to purify the wicked pestilence. The little bird actually manages to pull one bug out, but it's a tiny success compared to the swarm. Momotaro huffs, realizing his current form is way too weak for this. Sarahiko is genuinely impressed that Momotaro can still exorcise anything in that chicken form. But the bird snaps back. He's hungry and wants to eat the bugs himself. Momotaro declares he's going to eat every last one of them. He tells Sarahiko to lure the bugs out of Shoichi's body so he can have his disgusting little feast. Our boy agrees and tells the twins to let them back inside the barrier. He's got a kijutsu technique that can act as the perfect bait for those hungry parasites. But there's a catch. Sarahiko has to use his full power. Kaido's jaw drops, realizing every demon in Kyoto will probably lose their minds and rush over to attack them. The barrier seals shut, and Momotaro is amazed by how perfect it is. Kaido's ears feel weird from the sudden shift in dimension. This is his first time seeing a high-level barrier. Sarahiko closes his eyes, focusing every bit of his energy. He knows the range is small, so he needs the bugs to jump straight at him once he releases his ki. Sarahiko locks in, bringing his hands together with total focus. The air starts warping around him as he prepares to drop his Retsu technique, and the energy is absolutely insane. This true ki surge hits Fushimi Kaido hard, leaving him completely dazed. It feels like thousands of ghost hands are reaching out, flooding every corner of the room with overwhelming power. Kaido is totally losing it, trapped in a sick hallucination of grasping hands and weird plants. The intense wave of Sarahiko's power triggered his demonic hunger, and he's seeing things. Our boy's eyes widen as he realizes something is seriously wrong with Kaido. The Demon Eater's gaze has gone completely cold and predatory, like he's about to snap and attack. Kaido actually lunges, but Sarahiko is way too fast and slams him face first into the dirt. He's shocked that his own student would lose control and turn on him like this. While Kaido's down, those disgusting parasitic bugs start erupting from Shoichi's chest in a massive swarm. The twins watch in horror as the pests literally crawl out to find a new host. It's working. The bugs are being lured straight towards Sarahiko's overwhelming power. Momotaro and the girls watch the fountain of creepy crawlies, hoping our boy can handle the sudden surge of parasites. Sarahiko warns the others to stay back as he finishes the job. He makes another hand sign, his expression cold and focused. He's not letting a single one of those bugs survive. A massive blast of energy incinerates the swarm instantly with a loud POM. The parasites don't even have a chance to scream before they're turned into nothing but ash and light. The director and the twins are finally safe, looking totally relieved that the nightmare is over. Kaido is still slumped on the ground, though, looking completely drained after his little outburst. Our boy lets out a tired sigh, realize his power lure worked a little too well. Kaido's head is still spinning, and the poor guy has no idea what just happened to him. Turns out, Sarahiko's ki was so strong it made the Demon Eater literally sick to his stomach. Kaido starts puking while the master apologizes for forgetting how it would affect him. Kaido's still struggling, warning Sarahiko to stay far away. He's terrified that those monstrous instincts will take over again. Our boy nods, deciding it's time to get everyone out of there. The twins are still pretty shaken up, wanting someone to come and rescue them instead of just running. But Sarahiko knows they can't afford to wait around for any backup. He explains that all these bugs are controlled by the same master demon. Whoever is behind this now knows exactly where they are, and that a Kijutsu user is on the scene. A clever demon can use these parasites like a tracking device. By wiping them out, Sarahiko has basically sent out a massive flare to whoever is pulling the strings from the shadows. While Kijutsu users are a threat to a high-level demon, they're also the ultimate gourmet food. Sarahiko knows they're being hunted by something far more dangerous than just some possessed bugs. A creepy grin with fangs appears as our boy realizes his worst fears are coming true. If the creator of these bugs is who he thinks it is, they're in deep trouble. The plague demon finally shows herself, looking terrifyingly elegant in her floral kimono. Our boy realizes he's essentially become her prey, just like the friends he lost 3 centuries ago. Flashbacks of his fallen friends Yukijuro and Kintsuke flash through Sarahiko's mind. This demon is his greatest enemy, the very same monster that killed him and his comrades 300 years ago. Knowing they can't win a direct fight right now, Sarahiko hoists Shoichi on his back. He tells the twins to keep moving while Kaido struggles to even stand up on his own. The sisters are worried about leaving Kaido behind, but he's still too dizzy to move. Sarahiko promises he'll come back for the guy as soon as the others are safely evacuated. Fushimi Kaido is dazed, his head spinning as the voices around him fade into a hazy blur. Nearby, Sarahiko carries the injured director Shoichi, while the twins watch their friend in worry. Our boy's 5 senses are totally wrecked, yet he can still pinpoint Sarahiko's location through the chaos. He clenches his fist, blood dripping as he struggles to maintain his crumbling focus. Kaido feels like a moth drawn to a blinding light, unable to look away from Sarahiko's overwhelming power. This irresistible energy is pulling him in, and his monstrous instincts are starting to flare. A dark hunger begins to claw at his mind, screaming for him to rip out Sarahiko's heart. He tries to fight the urge, desperately telling himself that he isn't a demon. The struggle is becoming unbearable as the Demon Eater inside him takes over. Kaido grits his teeth, his expression twisting into something predatory while the obsession with the heart consumes his thoughts. He reaches out, his hand trembling as he nearly loses control completely. His gaze is locked on Sarahiko, ready to strike and satisfy the intense hunger that's overriding his every sense. Suddenly, a vision of Momotaro's legendary warrior form appears, acting as a shield between Kaido and his prey. This divine presence is the only thing standing between the boy and a terrible mistake. The small, fluffy bird stares back at him with surprisingly deep eyes. This little guy might look harmless, but he's the one keeping Kaido's dark side from tearing everything apart right now. Sarahiko orders everyone to move out, prioritizing the safety of the twins and the director. He's carrying Shoichi himself, but Kaido is still clearly struggling to get back on his feet. Even though he's exhausted, the black-haired Sarahiko refuses to leave Kaido behind. He's determined to protect his teammates, declaring that this temple is his home now as he faces the danger. Kaido snaps back to his usual arrogant self, yelling at Sarahiko to take the bird back. Sarahiko just sighs, realizing Momotaro is probably safer with the blonde ninja for the time being. Sarahiko gives Kaido a sharp, knowing look, trusting him to handle things from here. He needs to get the others to safety, leaving the Demon Eater to find his own balance. Resting against the temple, Kaido tries to stabilize his breathing through meditation. Chikataro sits calmly on his head, helping him trace the flow of true ki to regain control over his body. The narrator explains how ki control works, showing that meditation is the key to building and releasing energy. It's a delicate process, especially for someone with Kaido's volatile and hungry nature. Kaido's focus is intense as he adapts to his warped senses. Chikataro is actually pretty impressed, noting that most people would have collapsed under this much mental and physical pressure. He finally stands up, though his vision is still hazy and far from normal. Despite the lingering distortion, he's recovered enough to start moving, signaling Chikataro that it's time to go. The world around him is a warped nightmare of swirling colors and distorted shapes. It's hard to tell where the ground even is, but Kaido pushes forward through the psychedelic visual chaos. Huffing from the effort, Kaido admits he's actually excited to see Sarahiko's full power. Chikataro just mocks him, reminding the boy he's barely standing while trying to act all tough. As they walk, Kaido asks why he shouldn't just call him Momotaro. He's heard the stories of how the legendary warrior and his master's ancestors used to hunt demons together back then. Kaido is stunned as a vision of the legendary Momotaro appears before him. The hero's past glory is a stark contrast to his current fluffy form, leaving the young ninja completely speechless. Suddenly, Chikataro senses a dark presence nearby and snaps his head around. He pecks Kaido hard to get his attention, his tiny eyes sharpening as the atmosphere around them grows heavy. Kaido's eyes widen as a foul scent fills the air. He can't see clearly through the haze, but his instincts are screaming that something incredibly powerful and dangerous is heading their way. The plague demon finally reveals herself, standing tall in an elegant floral kimono. Her black horns and the stitched gash on her throat mark her as a truly ancient and terrifying foe. This psycho points a sharp finger, searching for the Kijutsu user who trashed her bug swarm. She's totally livid, hunting for the person who dared to steal her precious prey. Looking at her broken pawns, the demon is beyond furious. But she stops when she senses Kaido's energy. She's stunned to find what feels like another demon standing right there. The plague demon narrows her eyes at Kaido, wondering if he's another demon. Momotaro is sweating bullets, panicking that she's about to mistake their blonde friend for one of her kind. The creep is obsessed with finding that precious Kijutsu user she was tracking. She looks at Kaido with pure hunger, demanding to know if he already ate her intended meal. She completely loses it, screaming at Kaido for allegedly stealing her prey. Her face twists into a monstrous expression as her black-nailed hands reach out to tear him apart. Knowing he can't fight and protect the bird, Kaido tosses Momotaro away. The The poor chick goes bouncing across the ground like a basketball, shouting in confusion as he flies. The fight gets brutal fast. Kaido tries to keep up, but the demon's speed is insane. He barely dodges a lethal swipe, ending up with a nasty cut across his face. Momotaro is terrified, thinking Kaido might have actually killed Sarahiko earlier. But the blonde guy snaps at him, pointing out that the demon's neck was already severed before they arrived. The plague demon pins Kaido down, slamming his head into the stone floor with a violent crash. It's a total one-sided beatdown as she tries to crush the life out of him. She looks down at the bleeding ninja with total disgust, telling him to just die already. The way she stands over him is creepy, her long hair draping over her prey. Her face is a mask of pure desperation and rage. She's obsessed with fixing her mangled neck, and she's convinced that consuming a high-level master is the only way to heal. Kaido is in a really bad spot as the demon lunges for the kill. Seeing his friend in danger, Momotaro dashes forward, screaming for him to hold on a bit longer. The demon throws a massive tantrum, bashing everything in sight while screaming about her stolen prey. She can't believe her bugs were wiped out with just a single, overwhelming blow. She's convinced a Kijutsu user of that caliber won't ever appear again. Little does she know, the man responsible is standing right behind her, looking completely bored with her drama. A violent impact shakes the ground as someone finally intervenes. A voice rings out, telling the demon to get away from Kaido as the tide of the battle starts to turn. Sarahiko makes a calm hand sign, chanting the Rin mantra with total focus. The demon's eyes widen in shock as she senses a power far beyond anything she expected to find. He flows through a series of complex hand signs, his energy distorting the air around him. The plague demon freezes, realizing the person she's been hunting for centuries is finally back. Momotaro is absolutely stunned as he sees Sarahiko prepare his signature sword sign technique. The legendary move is a work of art, and it's about to give the demon a major headache. An enormous explosion of ki blasts the demon backward with a deafening kaboom. Sarahiko's strike is so powerful it levels the nearby stone lanterns, sending debris flying everywhere in the shrine. Momotaro absolutely loses it, screaming "holy crap" at the sheer power on display. Sarahiko stays calm, keeping his hand sign ready as he stares down the monster he just wrecked. Our boy Sarahiko walks past the battered Kaido, casually praising him for surviving that brutal barrage. Kaido just grins through the blood, totally in awe of how badass his master is. Sarahiko's eyes are cold as ice, declaring that he'll handle the rest of this fight. The plague demon is still in total disbelief, unable to comprehend that he's actually still alive. Her shock turns into a twisted, sadistic joy as she stares at her old rival. She claims she resented him for so long, but seeing him again makes everything feel forgiven. Sarahiko doesn't waste time on small talk, launching a rapid-fire assault that pummels the demon. His strikes are so fast they look like a blur of constant, heavy impacts. The demon is actually enjoying the pain, moaning in delight at the quality of his refined ki. She's a total psycho, getting a weird thrill from every single one of his hits. The plague demon reaches out with bloody, clawed hands, desperate to get a grip on Sarahiko. She's totally obsessed with his energy, wanting to keep that precious power all for herself. Sarahiko isn't having any of it, shutting her down with a brutal kick to the face. He tells the creep to just die already, clearly over her crazy obsession with him. The plague demon is bleeding out but can't stop laughing, even as her life slips away. Sarahiko watches her with cold indifference, completely unmoved by her creepy obsession with her own blood. She's haunted by the stitched-up gash on her neck, a wound dealt by the legendary Momotaro centuries ago. Even after 300 years, the mark from the divine messenger refuses to heal. Surrounded by a literal mountain of human skulls, the demon admits that eating normal people isn't enough. Despite the thousands she's devoured, her power remains fractured as long as her head isn't fully connected. A vision of the legendary warrior Momotaro appears, reminding her of the day he nearly took her head. She's resigned herself to this mangled fate, unless she finds a source of high-quality energy. The twisted psycho starts posing, claiming she's finally learned that quality is more important than quantity. She's no longer interested in common humans. She needs someone with a truly powerful soul to consume. Her gaze fixes on Sarahiko as she explains that eating a master Kijutsu user like him is the only cure. Our boy stays perfectly calm, staring back at her with a look of absolute boredom. Showing off her horrific injury, the demon reveals that only half of her skin is actually connected. It's a gruesome sight, but she's smiling like a lunatic at the thought of finally being whole. Sarahiko gets into a fighting stance as the demon prepares her final assault. She's convinced that today is the day her centuries-long suffering will finally end at his expense. She lunges forward with her fangs bared, screaming about how she'll be completely restored once she eats him. The obsession in her eyes is terrifying as she prepares to feast on his power. Our main man doesn't even flinch, his expression remaining sharp and focused. He knows exactly what this monster is after, and he has no intention of becoming her next meal. In a sudden move, Sarahiko leaps high into the air, easily dodging her reckless charge. The demon can only watch in surprise as he begins to lead her away from his injured allies. He sprints up the long stone stairs of the shrine, making a break for the forest. The plague demon is furious, stomping the ground as she demands to know where he's going. Leading the chase deep into the woods, Sarahiko realizes he needs to distance himself from Momotaro to keep the bird safe. He notes that the demon is surprisingly slow compared to her past self. The demon's voice echoes through the trees as she screams his name in a fit of rage. She's determined to catch him this time, promising to devour him properly and finish their ancient feud. Sarahiko makes a Zen hand sign, instantly masking his spiritual presence from a monster. The plague demon is left spinning in circles, completely unable to sense where her prey has vanished to. He leans casually against a massive tree, watching the confused demon from the shadows. By hiding his scent and energy, he's turned the tables, turning the predator into the confused prey. Still holding the Zen sign, Sarahiko remains perfectly still as the demon frantically searches for him. He's playing a dangerous game of hide-and-seek, waiting for the perfect moment to strike back. He knows a direct confrontation is a huge risk right now, so he uses his Zen technique to hide from the demon's bugs. He believes running away is the smartest move for now. Back at the shrine, poor Kaido is still out cold and covered in blood while the worried bird watches over him. Sarahiko's eyes narrow as he weighs his options in the forest. Despite his plan to retreat, our boy's true intention finally comes out. Standing tall in the dark forest, he admits that what he really wants is to kill that monster for good.